We begin this morning with the Punch newspaper in Nigeria. On the front page of the Punch newspaper, the big story says, Niger crisis, of course, that's what everyone's talking about. It's the conversation we just had this morning on the show. Niger crisis, ECOWAS troops on standby. UNTAC threatens to kill Bazoum. Now this is beginning to look very ugly. Tinubu says ECOWAS open to dialogue. UN, US worry over Bazoum in UNTA's captivity. Concerns rise over looming humanitarian crisis, burden on Nigeria's finances and military. This is an angle that I know that a lot of Nigerians want to speak about, as to the fact that if we're sending the Nigerian troops to war, can we afford it? We are currently a country that is like we're sitting on a keg of gunpowder. We're struggling with feeding, with being able to make ends meet. We are struggling with our own internal security infrastructure. So with the one that we're struggling with, are we able to afford to send them to Niger to go there? Because we are still the ones that are going to fund it. Do we have enough in our resources to be able to fund our military, our troops going to Niger? I don't think we do.
So there's, there are conversations as to who exactly will be funding it. So we may not know what happens behind the scenes. With these conversations and with these agreements, and I know we've repeatedly spoken about who really is, behind and who's creating these scenarios where there is a military intervention. Do ECOWAS leaders really believe that this is the best way, or are they being cajoled by forces, that are, outside Africa? So those, for me, are some of the, big questions that, would need to be asked. And, I've repeatedly asked about this idea of returning Niger to a democracy and all of that. What do the Nigerian people really want? Yes, I understand that, yes, military intervention, coups, completely, military coups, nothing to be supported in any way. But, at the same time, look across these countries that are pushing for democratic returning Niger back to democracy.
What exactly? Like
exactly.
And do they have a better life?
I mean, look, Cameroon, for example, has had Paul Biya for almost 1,000 years as president. Ali Bongo, who's the current president of Gabon, took over in 2009. His father was president for 41 years before he then took over since in 2009. And I'm sure that if he has a first son, that is likely going to be the next president. So what exactly is the democracy that we're talking about that, you're trying to get people back into? There are obviously interests beyond the interests of ECOWAS playing out here. It could be military establishments that have been set up by the West in these regions. It could be uranium. It could be other mineral resources that have, really been highly sought after. It has, in my opinion, almost zero to do with the restoration of democracy in Niger. But it's not for me to say, So,
right.
I just don't feel any Nigerian soldier's life should be put at risk. Because of Niger.
I mean, I think that to the best of their ability, they think that they are doing the right thing by sending the troops to Niger. But it's just really unfortunate to see what's happening, what's becoming of the continent, and why some analysts would say that it's a move to save face, a move by ECOWAS to save face, because they don't want the West African bloc to look weak. And they don't want it to be like they've lost control. And they're trying to prevent copycat coups, because in the past 5 years, the past 3 years, we've had about 5 coups in several other countries on the continent.
I agree with, the coup part. But you and I have spoken about this before. And we, said there's a reason behind these coups. There's a level of anger and frustration with the governments across Africa. And when has ECOWAS ever stepped in when democratic processes have been truncated by the same people, that the current leaders in ECOWAS? When has ECOWAS ever stepped in and said, you've run for, 2 years in office or 2 terms in office, but you're changing your constitution to impose yourself on the people? I said it before that subverting the will of the people through democratic, means and democratic institutions and continuing to subvert the will of the people is no different from a military coup. The only difference here is that one of them comes with guns and the other one is through the whole narrative and the whole picture of, we're in a democracy. But are we truly in a democracy in any part of the continent as it seems? I mean, the whole concept of democracy gives you the freedom to choose your leaders, and that one at this point has fallen flat on its face, because the institutions of government have continued to be maneuvered to ensure that people who the people a lot of times don't even want continue to hold on to power.
So it's very important that we then say what exactly is the definition of democracy and constitutional setup. What exactly is the constitutional provision for taking over office? Whilst we are not in any way in support of a coup, we must not then decide that several ills, like there's one of the maxims of equity is he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. So we shouldn't then say it's okay to ignore this part and this other part and focus on this. But I mean, we're just going to have to wait and see how eventually this turns out for the people of Niger. Still on the front page of the Punch newspaper, some of the stories we're looking at this morning on the front page, we have Kalu lobbies Ganduje for more Southeast ministerial slots. Naira slump. Yeah, that's a real slump. Fuel price may go up, say marketers. Shaibu false defection claim, court halts removal. At the bottom, we have 3 more stories to go. Flood hits Edo, Adamawa, Ekiti, and 17 others. Elevator crash, more dust after Lagos female doctor's tragic death. Bus crashes into Lagos shops, kills mother and daughter. You'll be on your own. Trouble will come and meet you. Sad. It's unfortunate there. But that's all that we can say on the take on the Punch newspaper. Let's head over to another paper here in Nigeria. All
right, the Nation newspapers comes up next. The big one splashed on your screen on the Nation this morning says, ECOWAS puts troops on standby for Niger junta. It says all options on the table. UN worried over the fate of President Bazoum. Is the UN or ECOWAS worried about the fate of the refugees that would emerge if there's a war in Niger? Of the hundreds or maybe even thousands of people that would be displaced by a war in Niger? Is the UN or ECOWAS worried about that part? Or just, President Bazoum? Oshomole to Shuaibu, APC not a haven for failed politicians. That must have, really, really stung. And also, Southeast governors to battle insecurity collectively. We can also find here on the Nation this morning, NBS report, agri sector lost 577 billion naira to flooding in 2022. General Agwai, Jega, Uwais, and 8 others don't use force on coupists. That's what they are saying. Of course, I'm sure a lot of people agree with them here. But let's move away. I think we can just... celebrating Akintola Williams, chartered accountant, at 104. I think, all Nigerians, are in celebratory mood, for, him, of course, getting to... that age. Congratulations to him and his family. He is, a Nigerian legend of accounting. But these are the stories on the Punch this morning, also on the Nation this morning. Quickly, we can go to Tanzania. Absolutely.
On the front page of the Citizen newspaper in Tanzania, Samia's directives on one ID number, digitalization drive. President Samia Suluhu Hassan yesterday issued directives meant to expedite implementation of the Universal Identification Number Plan, digitalization of government processes, and provision of affordable internet access and free Wi-Fi in public areas. Why High Court threw out case of IGA and what verdict means. 63 PC satisfied with government performance on economy. How $24 million project can create horticulture millionaires. The newly unveiled $24 million food security initiative dubbed Tuhifadhi Chakula, which is supported by the US, is poised to turn small-scale farmers into dollar millionaires in the coming years, according to a key implementer. And that will be your... Okay, there's 2 more stories at the top. I visited Tanzania. Debate Franco on future of tourism and climate concerns. And the final story, Milad Ayo's inspiring journey to success in media industry. That's all that we could take this morning on the Citizen newspaper. Let's take one more paper in Nigeria, all right. And that's the Business Day. Yes, Business Day newspapers this morning. It says Naira slump test CBN resolve to free currency. And, these are, I'm sure this morning, if you're going to ask for the top 3 conversations amongst Nigerians, the Naira and petrol, of course, will definitely make the list. Because the more the Naira exchange rate or Naira slumps to the dollar, the worse it is for the price of petrol. And so if we continue to see the Naira hit 1,000 and even beyond, petrol price would continue to increase, which is scary for a lot of Nigerians who are simply just trying to survive. And, it's shocking to see how this has happened in just about 8 years, between 2014 and 2023, or 2015 and 2023. ECOWAS to explore all options, including use of force
And also Nigerians splurge $52 million dollars on Barbie in 2 weekends. That's about $70,000. Not so much money, but you know.
Is it Barbie the same as my Barbie girl?
Yes, the same one. We can also find here beauty product sales defy economic woes, hit 15-year high, and also FX supply rises as Nigeria attracted $1.41 billion inflows in June alone. These are the major stories that we can find on the Business Day newspapers. We have, of course, more papers coming your way in the second half of Breakfast Central. For now, we go on a short break, and when we come back, we're going to be moving into our top stories this morning here on Breakfast Central. Stay with us.